Three, two, one. Welcome to the Oh Brother podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
How you doing this week, Dan?
Doing much better this week.
It's not midnight.
It's not midnight. Car's running. We're good to go.
Yep, good.
So we are, where are we at? Of August 29th, 2020. Episode 16.
16 of, what did we decide is going to be a season? 32?
I don't think we're doing seasons. I think we're just going to roll on.
It's going to be like one long season.
Yeah, because we're, like what would be a logical stopping point for a season? I don't know.
We could use the year. I don't know.
Wow, that's a long season. If we did one a month, maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll see you next month.
We'd have on episode 52.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we're doing this week, we're going to call it what, the Big Five? Is that what we're calling it?
The Big Five.
The Big Five. So do you want to set us up of what we're talking about?
Yeah, the Big Five is, there's only 3 movies that have actually qualified for, it used to be called the Grand Slam, and then they added writing in. So the Big Five is the Academy Awards. You have to win Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Writer, Best Director. And only 3 films have done it. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was the second movie. There it is. The first movie was It Happened One Night, Clark Gable. And the third movie to do it was Silence of the Lambs. So there's only 3 that have ever done it.
Do we know any idea what the next 1 or 2 closest runners up were?
Oh God, I know. Just off the top of my head, I can think of Unforgiven.
Oh yeah.
Didn't get actor. And it didn't get actress, it got supporting actor, Gene Hackman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Kevin Costner's epic
Dances with Wolves?
Dances with Wolves came close because it got director, writer.
Mm-hmm.
Did he get no, he didn't get actor.
I don't remember.
But there's a few that were close, but those are the ones off the top of my head.
So for no particular reason, we decided, because I think we're going to dive into all 3 of these ultimately, but tonight's going to be One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest we're talking about off the top.
Yeah,
of
and the reason we picked this was you sent me a clip of Nicholson. We were talking about, where's Jack Nicholson?
Yeah.
And I did a little research into that too, trying to find out what's going on. We haven't seen him in 10 years.
Did you pull up that movie that bombed, that last one he did?
I did, with Paul Rudd. I forget the name of it. It was like, It Happened Somehow or something. And ironically, it was James L. Brooks directed it. People know that name probably from The Simpsons fame.
Mm-hmm.
But he also directed Nicholson and his 2 other Academy Awards. Not this one, but his other 2 Academy Awards were directed by James L. Brooks. So some people said that was it. It bombed. They pointed to Gene Hackman's last movie, Mooseport. He disappeared after that.
As
Sean Connery. Yeah, Sean Connery. Am
I out of my head to think that Mooseport was Ray Romano?
Correct. No, you're not.
Oh my God.
It was a comedy. It's
Poor
too
Gene
bad.
Hackman. Yeah.
And then Sean Connery, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen seemed to kick him out of the... But I think with all 3 of them, and from what I've read about Nicholson, it really didn't have anything to do with that. It was just, I'm done. These guys are all in their 70s, and they got nothing else to prove.
Clint's still doing it.
Clint's one of the few that's, and he's talked about, why would I love doing this. Why would I stop doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
What else would I do?
selfishly, we want them to keep doing
Yeah,
it because you
yeah,
know what just to see what they could still produce at
right.
this point. But yeah, it's hard to argue. I mean, there's not like, I mean, his resume is crazy good,
Yeah,
crazy good.
crazy good. You know, I was looking one of his films, King of Marvin Gardens.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
I was wondering if that has something to do with King of Staten Island, the
Hmm.
titles. It's just when I was doing some research, I saw that. I have it.
Is
And
there some similarity in the picture at all?
I don't know, you know, it's been a while since I've watched it.
Yeah.
And I have it on Criterion, so I have a bunch of Nicholson on Criterion, Easy Rider, some other things, and Silence of the Lambs. And unfortunately, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was a great laser disc. And there's a great documentary called something like, oh gosh, I just looked at it. It's something like Completely Cuckoo.
Hmm.
And it was a big extra on the laser disc and on the DVD, but it's not on the Blu-ray, right? It's not on your Blu-ray, is it?
That documentary?
Yeah,
There is one, but I don't know what it's called. It's on there
yeah.
though, but
It
I don't
just
know what it's
says
called.
it's either a shortened version or it's not it.
Yeah.
And I just showed you, I have the Digibook, which doesn't have it.
And that's
And
the one you said.
Nicholson didn't appear in any of the extras because he was fighting with Milos Forman.
Oh, interesting. Well,
Yeah.
he wasn't the only one, as it turns out. Uh, you know, I didn't expect to. I spent a fair amount of time. The research I did here was really just over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
A lot going on this week, but yeah, I was diving. I found myself going down this Ken Kesey rabbit hole because of the novel. He's the author of the novel, and I spent a lot of time sort of diving into his history.
Oh, now that'll be interesting.
Yeah, and so
He's not happy. Have you ever see? I doubt. I think I know the answer. Have you ever read the novel?
no,
I did, long time ago.
1960 or 62, 60 or 62. It's one of
Yeah,
those.
it was. I think 60. Well, it was on Broadway by 63,
Yeah, maybe it was 1960.
and it didn't do well on Broadway.
No, it didn't. It didn't. But the story of this, just the story leading up to the film, I thought was as fascinating as anything about the film.
Pretty much.
You,
And
you know,
we should. I don't know if we've officially said this week's movie is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
yes. No, we did. We did.
We did. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Directed by Milos Forman, starring
Right.
Jack Nicholson,
Yep.
and a whole bunch of other stars that are stars now that weren't stars then.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that as we go on.
It's a big cast. Big cast. But so Ken Kesey writes this novel, and I come to find out I don't know, he took part. I guess he's in maybe college at the time, and almost in a way to sort of get out of maybe this is Vietnam, right, going on at this time. And so
he was a writer. He was in college for writing.
Right. And so he takes part in this military experiment with these, I don't know how they classified it. They say it was just like medications that were like, what's the story behind that piece?
Well,
it turns out to be LSD.
Yeah, LSD. And somebody wrote that he took place in as a mental study. That's not true. It was a study, like you said, where he for whatever reason they took LSD to see how the mind would react in certain scenarios.
But really them finding a way to get soldiers to conform.
Yeah, and not sure. Again, it's real sketchy, the truth of that. I think LSD was involved, yes.
Mm-hmm.
whether or not it had this conformist angle, which is in the novel. You know, a lot of the novel is
Right.
about that.
Big theme. Yeah.
And when I read the novel, I read it after seeing the movie. So I read it in the 70s. No, probably early 80s, sometime around there. And I always wanted to do this play. This play's done a lot
Yeah.
at schools.
Oh my God. There's everywhere you turn, there's
Yeah,
somebody
doing
doing it.
it.
Yeah,
And
I saw some clips of Gary Sinise doing it. He
oh,
was,
really?
he was the Jack Nicholson RP McMurphy
RP,
role,
yeah.
obviously.
Yeah, it's you know, and the list of people who were attached to it. First and foremost, I think you were about to get to this, was Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, because I wanted to, so here's poor Kirk Douglas, who has the rights he buys the rights.
Right, as soon as they were available.
Right. And so this, again, it's about 1960, somewhere around there, right? Right. 61, something like that. And then as you said, it ends up on Broadway.
Right.
Right.
With
And
him,
Kirk Douglas in the RP
McMurphy. Right.
Right.
His son, Michael, who was known in the 70s for The Streets of San Francisco. You probably never heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
You did? Okay.
How young do you think I am?
Well, I don't know.
I have old references because of, you.
Yeah, probably because of me, but I think of myself as being really young watching that TV show with Karl Malden.
Yeah, I mean, I came to it much later, but
yeah, and Michael Douglas was like the cool cop.
Yeah, but here's Kirk Douglas. As you said, it doesn't do well on Broadway.
Right.
So he's going around now trying to shop this around to get it made into a film, and
right.
nobody would bite on it. Couldn't get anybody.
Fox was agreed and this gives away the ending, which if you haven't seen this movie,
it's 1975. It's
yeah. So 20th Century Fox agreed they'd take it if R.P. McMurphy lives at the end, because they figure if it's successful, they'll make a sequel.
That's a weird thought of a sequel.
And, Ken was like, "Thanks, we'll pass." So that was the original studio that was going to take it on.
I don't know if you know the story about. So Milos Forman, I don't know what he was. I forget the name of the film that he was involved with at that time when Kirk
was Czechoslovakia.
No, he was in New York at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, there were these parties going on, and Kirk is in the scene trying to shop this around to get it made into a film.
Right.
He ends up meeting Milos Forman at one of these parties. And he's kind of just this young up and coming director, I think, at that point. And so Kirk, approaches him about it. Would you be interested? I'll send you the script, whatever.
Send you the novel.
Send you the novel, right?
Yeah.
So, do you know the story about that? So
he mails the novel. Never hears from him.
No. So he figures, he's jerking my chain.
Yeah, exactly. He should have at least sent me a note saying, "Hey, I got it."
Right.
Turns out he didn't get it because at that time Czechoslovakia was communist.
And the customs.
And they confiscated the novel, so he never got it.
Yes, that was an amazing story.
Yeah.
That he did, but he ultimately did get it. He gets it
from Michael
years later. That's right, not knowing. And of course, Michael doesn't realize the story between the two. It was kind of, that was sort of mind blowing.
Yeah.
To learn of that. So now Michael Douglas, who's got clout, because as you said, he's a big star in the streets of San Francisco.
Yeah, he was up and coming. Because this was his first producer credit.
But that show had been on for, was it 5 seasons already?
I don't know if I don't remember.
Yeah, several seasons.
And I wouldn't say he was a big star yet.
Well, maybe not in
And
film, but
yeah,
TV, no?
no,
I mean, that show
I
was
don't think
huge, wasn't it?
show is big, but not,
I mean, they
you know.
wouldn't, well, at least to the point where they weren't going to let him out of, they
I
did,
mean,
right?
I think the bigger thing was the fact that it was Kirk Douglas's son. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
Spartacus, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was some story there with Michael Douglas being able to get out of the streets of San Francisco to
Okay,
go and produce
I
this
didn't read
film.
that. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
read that.
yeah,
Um, but I know that Kirk finally got to the point where he felt he was too old to do it, and he was
yeah,
just gonna kind of throw it away. And Michael said, Dad, why don't you let me try?"
yeah. And there's I've never heard either of them fully tell that story, but obviously that there was an interesting thing going
Yeah,
on behind this. You can imagine
right.
the son and
Did he
he
snake it from Dad, or
yeah, and for him to have held on to this all his efforts and to try to get this to be a film and wanting to play the lead role
right?
and not having any of those opportunities
And
is
we should
kind of
say
sad.
Michael Douglas was in the Broadway version as an orderly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
he
didn't
was an
know that.
orderly on. And do you know the two cast members that were on in it? Two cast members that were in the movie that were also on Broadway.
I don't. I should, but
Danny
I don't.
Danny DeVito,
Oh, that's right. Yes, I did know that. Yes.
Martini,
Yes.
and the not Nurse Ratchet, Louise Fletcher, but the other
Oh,
nurse.
Nurse Pilbo.
Yeah, and that was her
Okay.
only film credit.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I what I learned from that was DeVito and Nicholson are both from Jersey. I didn't know Jack Nicholson. I knew Danny DeVito was from Asbury Park, but I didn't know
Yeah.
Nicholson was from, I think, Neptune, which is just right up the street. So that was
There's
interesting.
all sorts of
There
connections.
really is.
I
There's
mean, the
lots.
Batman connection.
There's even connections to a bunch of our other episodes that I thought was kind of wild because, like, for example, I watched all the Oscar speeches
Oh, interesting.
from 76 and 7. The first one that I came across was Nicholson receiving his Oscar for Chinatown,
Mm-hmm.
and there was
Which
another
was the
film,
next year.
and he had two films that same year that he was nominated for both,
Mm-hmm.
and he won for both technically. But Chinatown,
They were in separate
what's the name of the other?
years, though.
They must have been 1 year apart. I'm not
Yeah,
talking about.
they were one.
I'm not talking
They
about Cuckoo's Nest.
technically,
Yeah, I'm not talking
well,
about Cuckoo's
Cuckoo's
Nest.
Nest and Chinatown were 1 year apart.
Chinatown, I think, was 74,
Yeah,
right?
and this is 75.
Yeah, but I'm
Or
not talking about Cuckoo's Nest. I'm talking about he was nominated for Chinatown and The Little Something. There was another film at the same time as Chinatown was nominated that he was nominated for.
just I can't think of
You
it.
got to look that up. But
I'll
anyways,
check it out.
but he's not there to receive it because
Right,
he's
he's on the
in
set.
Oregon
That's right, with the
filming.
cast.
Exactly. And he's in the
Yes.
McMurphy get up and
Yes,
everything.
exactly.
And that was pretty cool. I hadn't seen that before. And he smashes through at first he's
Yeah.
talking through the glass and then he smashes through it they're in the hospital or whatever.
Right.
But that was interesting. And I think it was David Niven who introduces Twiggy. We're like really dating ourselves now, but I think it was David Niven who introduces Twiggy to read the nominations. And David Niven was in Bedtime Story, which was
Right.
related to the episode.
Yeah.
This is a lot of weird.
And we'll get into the Batman references later, but
when he receives the best actor for Cuckoo's Nest, man, the other nominees is crazy. The pictures that were out at that time, like Pacino, he was up against Pacino 2 years in a row. And of course, we know Al didn't win until 93 for Scent of a Woman, which
he never should have won for.
Exactly. That's a whole nother thing. But like Serpico and Dog Day Afternoon, it was
Yes.
Barry Lyndon, Kubrick
Yeah.
was in the running. It's crazy. So, anyways, I digress.
It was a
So
like a golden era.
it finally gets made. So
Right.
we're at that point.
Yeah, let's get to the beginning and talk about the story.
Yeah, I mean, give us the synopsis of the film.
Well, let me just separate the novel quickly because this is a point of contention for the author.
Yeah.
When you read the novel, the main character is Chief Brumden. And you're reading all about the chief, and he's narrating the story, which is kind of interesting. Think of that when you watch the film.
Yeah.
No, well, Milos totally, ditched that and really, went a totally different direction, made R.P. McMurphy the central character. So basically, R.P. McMurphy, he's a criminal, a career criminal. They keep locking him up. They're at their wits' end. They're like, what do we do with this guy? Let's send him to a mental institution and have him psychologically evaluated. So the start of the movie, we hear this music. It kind of sounds like Indian music.
Native American music.
Native American. Sorry. For not being politically
What
correct.
does it sound like?
Native American music. But do you know the song that was playing?
No.
Please Release Me.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Just in a real funky
That's
way.
pretty cool. Yeah, I wouldn't.
So that was the song, but it has these overtones of Native American kind of music in it, and it's interesting. When I was in college, I took a course called Music of the World's People, and studied all different kinds of music, and it's interesting. But you see the headlights from a distance. It's a really long shot. You just see these headlights coming, while the credits are coming up. And then you're inside the institution, and then they go back outside, and RP pulls up, not him, but a bunch of, I don't know, policemen, right? That we're going to release him to the custody of the institution.
Right.
So that's how we meet this R.P. McMurphy, who becomes the central figure of the whole movie, really.
Yeah, he's looking forward to it because he doesn't want to do the hard labor out on the prison
he was at
farm.
A hard labor camp. Yeah, he was at a labor camp.
And they had to wait. Was it because he was still filming, or there was just some back and forth between, I don't know if it was, I guess it was Michael, I'm assuming it was Michael Douglas and Milos Forman about someone else that may have been tapped for the lead role, but they ended up waiting 6 months to even get Jack Nicholson cast.
There's a whole bunch of names. Milos wanted Burt Reynolds.
That's what it was. He was like,
movie.
That's right.
And this was 75. This is like Burt Reynolds' box office, like
it was Deliverance
Smokey
out at that point.
Bandit, Deliverance was already out. He was pretty, but Nicholson, was also just done Chinatown. So, but there was a lot of other names, and I rattled off the list earlier, but
I think there was something in Nicholson's personality and temperament and everything that, he could be tender and sort of, I don't want to say menacing, that's too hard a word, but I think it was something in the qualities that Jack Nicholson brought to it that ultimately they said, yeah, okay, we'll wait. And they waited.
And there was a couple of disagreements right at the beginning. Jack shows up with a big beard. He pictured that McMurphy has a beard. And
I guess that went to Scanlon instead.
Yeah, the famous Dr. Scanlon.
Dr. Scanlon.
And then, there was a rumor, and this is not true, that they were waiting because Jack Nicholson had hair plugs in.
Oh, that's
If you see the movie, you can tell that's not true.
right.
But that was a rumor for a long time.
He does have some wild hair in it.
But he did have a disagreement with Foreman about how the institution would be when he got there.
Which again, they filmed in the actual state hospital
in Oregon,
Salem,
yes.
Oregon, I think. And the Dr. Spivey, that awesome opening scene where he does the intake assessment with him.
Oh yeah.
And he was the real dean of that hospital.
Yeah, he was a real doctor.
Great, really great in that role. That's, it's always cool when that natural, sometimes I can go wrong, but
and you can tell.
Yeah, you can, but not
like
to the point
Nicholson
where
kills the bug when they're doing the intake, right?
And make believe fly.
Yeah, he and Spivey just kind of looks and goes, "Thank you."
He does a double take.
Yeah, he kind of looks and goes, "Thanks."
You could
say it.
You could tell it was all ad-libbed.
Yeah, I mean, you could just tell by watching it, and he comes off realistic. And do you know that Harding, the guy who played Harding in the movie, had leukemia, and Spivey recognized it. He was dead 18 months later.
Oh,
I don't know if he even made it to, yeah, I think he did.
That's
he made it. The picture was released. He dies, but
and who is it?
He was diagnosed by that doctor.
Who was it that had a breakdown? Was it the guy that played Cheswick?
Charlie Cheswick, yeah.
And I gotta say, he was seeing this again. Man, what a performance! That was, yeah. But his in particular, for me, was one of the strongest in the whole film. It was so powerful throughout, and he had so many really intense scenes. I was really struck by him.
So much so that the cast was worried about him.
You can see that.
Producers started to get worried about him. The final scene with the chief and McMurphy, he got so upset they had to remove him from the set.
Wow.
Cheswick. It's so funny. I hear these names because when I was in high school, I had a nickname for everybody.
Cheswick.
And I use names from One Flew Over. Like if somebody was like hyper, sit down, Cheswick.
Was he who? And I don't know his name offhand, but what else was he in? Do you know any of his filmography?
I did, and
I just know him so much as Charlie Cheswick.
Right.
It's hard to think of him as anything else. But
I looked at it before we started it, but it just kind of went on in my head because it was nothing really earth-shattering.
So Jack Nicholson,
he got really into it.
Oh yeah, and it shows.
And they all lived. They lived in the mental hospital, and they didn't close down the mental hospital.
Right.
It was still.
They worked around it. Yeah.
Patients.
Yeah. They said their dressing rooms, if you want to call that, were, the rooms up that hallway that you see right in the ward.
Right.
Is where they would, it's wild. And again, adds authenticity to it,
Yeah.
But so he comes in really just trying to get out of hard labor. And you've got all of these other characters who are, many of whom are criminally insane. And as you come to find out through the course of the film, well, one of the shocking things you find out is a handful of them are there voluntarily.
Not just a handful, almost all of them.
Yeah, quite a few of them. Yeah. A lot
of them. The chief being one of the exceptions, McMurphy being the exception,
right,
and a couple of the other guys. But that blows his mind.
Yeah, and it speaks to one of the. There's so many themes that you can touch on with this film. Just that whole idea of and with Kesey and again it goes back to the novel, but these kind of institutionalization and nature and
being controlled,
individualism and
right,
I mean, on and on and
You
on.
go
Like,
to the scene with the cigarettes,
right.
and Cheswick wants his cigarettes. Why is she? And Nurse Ratched is this domineering, and I don't know if you noticed her hairdo,
Yeah. She's like Maleficent,
and
like the
that's on
devil
purpose.
horns. Yeah.
That's on purpose. So she's very demanding and commanding of the unit, and she takes their cigarettes, and Cheswick is having a fit, leads to the scene where Nicholson punches through the nurse's glass, grabs the cigarettes, and here, goddamn it, here's your cigarettes, Cheswick. Shut up. But to me, the brilliance of this movie and what makes this, I think it's 33 on, the best 100 movies ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And, people have it in their top 10. Barack Obama, it's his favorite movie. Ron Howard, favorite movie. So, those little trivial things, but these are, pretty respectable people. But to me, what is absolutely the movie is all about is reactions. It's
Mm-hmm.
about human reactions to things. And I guess at one point they set a camera on Nicholson for 25 hours straight, just getting reactions to what's going on in the place.
Yeah, and you see that a lot in the film. There's a lot of those cutting to him, and he's just reacting to what's going on around
just
him.
laughing,
Yeah,
What? I'm a little Mary girl.
that was funny.
Is that what you're
Hardy.
saying?
Yeah,
Hardy.
that was great.
Hey, hard on.
And you mentioned, it was wasn't it Christopher Lloyd's first film?
His first film.
Tabor.
DeVito's first film. No, not DeVito's first film.
Brad
Christopher
Dourif?
Lloyd and Brad Dourif.
He was amazing. Billy Bibbit.
And Michael Douglas wanted to play Billy Bibbit.
Mm.
So
I think I heard that.
But think about the reactions as everybody. And I guess most of the cast stayed in character throughout.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, when Nicholson arrived on set, they were deep into their characters, and
right,
you hear the story how he's out on lunch and they're still in character, and he's
like
going over to Milos. Yeah, like what is going? These guys are whacked out of their minds.
Yeah,
I found it was very moving. I found it, a couple of the scenes in particular are very powerful. The one you mentioned, of course, the ending scene with Chief and him, basically that mercy killing when he discovers that McMurphy, who earlier comes in and plays off like he's been lobotomized, but he's just screwing around.
Right.
But then again, you fast forward later in the film after they have this party, he's going to leave and flee to Canada.
With the chief and
the chief and these girls that he brings in, and they have this wild party. They end up getting drunk and they all pass out, and then they're discovered the next day by Nurse Ratched and the orderlies and everything. And he's punished for it.
Yeah, and before you get off that point, to further my point of reactions, I found it fascinating. They're getting ready to leave. They're on their way out the window practically. They've got it open. And all of a sudden, Brad or Billy Bibbit says to Nicholson, she's pretty. And he's like, yeah, Billy, what, you want to come with us? And, oh, no, I can't come with you. And he says, why not, man? Come on. And he says, you like candy? So Nicholson says, I got to give this kid a little treat before we leave. Because he says, well, you can come with us or I'll write you. I'll tell you what, I'll send you a postcard with my address and you can come up and meet us when you get out of here. And then he decides to hook him up with the girl.
Right.
Was it Candy?
Hmm.
Or Candy was the other one.
No, it was Candy.
Rose
Rose
and
was the other
Candy.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they go, he puts them in a room, and then he pushes everybody away. And then Nicholson goes to the window with the chief, and they're both drinking. He hands him the bottle, and he says, Canada, Chief. We'll get to Canada, Chief. And there's a moment right there where there's just a shot. It stays on Nicholson. And he's kind of staring into nowhere. Like, what's he thinking right then? What is he thinking? I keep watching that scene. And I'm like, what is he thinking? Because you think to yourself, how could they fall asleep? They were just about to leave. Billy Bibbit couldn't have lasted more than a minute in there, right? So, I just think that was such a great shot. Was he, I don't know, was he undermining himself? Was he somehow wanting to stay? I don't know. Your thoughts on that? Do you know the shot I'm talking about?
I don't think I picked up on the one you're talking about. What you're making me think of is it's the next morning.
Yes.
When he's at the window and he's trying to find the right key.
Right. He finally does.
Well, no, because
he gets to the window.
Well, no, he does get it open. He does. And he's got it open because there's a cage and then the window.
And then you hear a scream.
Well, yeah. Washington, one of the orderlies, is confronting me, wraps the leather around his, and he says, you're coming with me type of thing. And then you hear a scream.
Right.
Which we find out is Billy has taken his own life with a piece of broken glass.
The nurse screaming, and she runs into Nurse Ratched, almost falls into Nurse Ratched, right? Like a kid.
Right, with the blood on her and everything.
Yeah, blood on her.
But it's that you see Rose, the other woman that they were partying with, she's outside now.
Yes.
She's outside the building.
Correct.
And Nicholson, it's one of those, she's like, come on, come on, Mac or whatever,
And Candy's still in the building. She's getting walked out.
Yeah.
That's why Billy's left alone.
Right.
Because before he could do that, they have to get her out of the room. So one of the orderlies is taking her out of the building. And she's kind of looking at Jack like, what's going on? And, then the scream and go ahead.
Yeah. So it's just his hesitation in that moment. And I think that, again, encapsulates a lot of one of the predominant themes in the film, where through the character of Nurse Ratched, they've been so controlled and subjugated. Even he now, this guy who, when he comes into the place, is of his own free will, like he's a real free spirit and he's, risk taker and all that. But in this one moment, the window's open. Freedom is there. You just got to dive out the window.
Walk out the window.
Chief probably would have, blocked the orderly if he had tried anything.
Yeah.
As big as he was, but he hesitates. And then he makes the decision to ultimately go run to the room and see what all the commotion is about.
Yeah, he looks at the girl.
Discovers Billy.
Then he kind of sees the nurse. And
yeah.
Then all the inmates are kind of crowded around. And Nicholson's kind of.
Yeah, and for me, again, it's why I'm tying it to a theme in the movie is for me, that's less about McMurphy, the character, making that decision. I feel like it was impressed upon him in some subconscious way that he was even willing to give up. Like, I don't know. If it's me, I'm out the window. I'm halfway to Canada by now. Billy's a sweet kid, but
I can't.
What did his future hold?
But there was kind of this parental probably feeling towards him.
Right.
He also becomes the leader of this clan of misfits, right?
Right.
So he's the leader. He's got to go see what, and you just see when he catches a look, there's just some great reaction shots from everybody, but especially Nicholson is like, he's just, you can see him building and building, and that long neck of Louise
Scratching.
Fletcher
Yeah. I
becomes
think
a target.
we need to just carry on with the program of the
Exactly.
day.
Let's
Everybody
go,
calm,
gentlemen. Right.
remain calm, and he just loses it and goes for her throat. And the next thing you know, they're tussling on the ground, and he's
She's
trying to
probably a
choke her
minute
out.
from death.
Yeah, he's choking her out, and then Washington comes up from behind and tackles him, and then that scene cuts, and then and it's that point you realize he's in the next sequence. He's now been lobotomized.
Right.
And these two orderlies are bringing him back. It's at night.
Actually, it's a cut.
Right.
And then it seems like it's business as usual. We don't know what's.
Yeah, they're all talking
happened.
about where is he, or he's upstairs, or I just saw him.
No, somebody comes in.
He's calm as
I forget
could be.
his name. One of the guys comes back from the shock treatment.
Seafelt.
Good.
Seafelt.
Wow, that's really good. And you see Nurse Ratched. She's got a big collar on.
Yeah.
Mr. Seafelt, we feel better now. And he shows her his lip, like, that's good, Mr. Seafelt.
He's now taking his medicine, because earlier he was accused of giving his medicine to another character. Yeah.
So, we see the chief sweeping.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know what's going on. And then Seafelt says, Murphy, get out. And all the group is like, what?
Yeah, and then Harding is the one. He's like, upstairs.
He's meek as a lamb.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so we don't know what's going on. And then cut to night.
Yeah, Chief's in bed.
Chief's awake.
He's awake, but he's in bed.
He's in bed. And that was an interesting scene too, because Chief, for the first time, we notice he's strapped down. We don't know why. Like, what was it about him? Did he have some kind of seizure response? Because he's the only one in that area strapped in.
Yeah, that is interesting, actually, now that you say that. I don't know
if it was
just
your themes of confinement.
Right. Exactly. And just the potential that he had, maybe, because he was so big. I don't know.
So big. I don't know.
But that's a good
so he unstraps himself.
Right.
And he's like, hey, Murphy, I knew you wouldn't leave without me, man.
Yes, because at this point, as I was saying, the orderlies are bringing Murphy down the hall. They lay him in bed. And you think, you're like, okay, he's just playing. He's playing again. Yeah, he's just goofing again.
Yeah.
So as you say, Chief gets out of bed. He goes over to him, starts talking to him. Hey, and he's put his coat on now, right? Chief's got his shirt on. He's put his coat on. So,
they're ready to leave.
Yeah, he's ready to leave. And he starts talking to him about, Canada, I'm feeling as big as a damn mountain. Feeling big as a damn mountain, he says.
Yeah.
Which is really, Will Sampson, God. He's
great.
Now, I think I knew, well, maybe I knew of him from this first, but I always thought of him
This was his first thing.
Yeah, I always thought of him as Ten Bears in The Outlaw Josie Wales,
Correct.
Which is another great performance. But anyhow, earlier when McMurphy is at his bedside and talking to Chief about, come on, let's go. It's easier than you think. And he says, Chief is saying, I can't. He tells a story about how his father was taken down by.
That goes more to the novel.
Goes more to the novel, right? How he was dehumanized and the alcohol. All right, he was an alcoholic too. The bottle got him. But the line where he says, I can't. You're a lot bigger than I am.
Yeah. That's a great line.
That's such a great line. It's such a great line. It's like, oh man, that just hits you. And of course, Nicholson, you're as big as a damn tree.
Yeah. He says, I'm not as big as you. And he says, Chief, you're as big as damn tree trunk.
What a great line.
And then
Chief is now talking to McMurphy in bed.
At his bedside.
Yeah.
So the roles are reversed here. And Chief's the one. Let's go. I'm feeling big. and he lifts his head up, and
Because
you see,
he's not responding to him.
right, and then he lifts him up, and you see the cut marks. I remember when I first saw the movie, I didn't know what a lobotomy was.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think I had to ask Dad, I didn't really understand
What's going on
what
with
did
his
that
head?
mean? Yeah, like what did they do? And then to see, and then Chief says, I'm not going to leave you here. I'm taking you with me, and that goes into he does take him with him, but
That's right.
spiritually.
That's right. And he says, "Let's go."
Let's go, and he puts the pillow over his head,
Right.
and he's shaking him, trying to get him to respond, and nothing. When he puts the pillow over his head, the body's natural fight comes out. And Nicholson, if it was Nicholson and not a stunt double, it was phenomenal.
It was
phenomenal.
It was phenomenal. And earlier, again, there are so many powerful moments in the film. But earlier, when they first give him that shock treatment, that doesn't have the same effect, right?
Mm.
Man, Nicholson in that scene, acting that out, like what that must have felt like. Oh my God, you could see the torture on his face.
Him and Louise Fletcher both watched a patient have that treatment.
Really? Oof, man.
And a lot of people, there was rumors for a long time that he really, they really zapped him.
Yeah.
And that believe me, that was like an urban
myth
for a long time.
Yeah.
And of course he wasn't. And and then to finish the scene, his body goes limp, and he pulls the pillow off. You see that he's gone. And then the chief goes into the washroom.
Which again, we skipped over the first iteration of that.
Correct.
Which is so powerful. And I even wrote...
And play that first iteration
before,
and then I'll finish it.
Right. So there's a whole scene where McMurphy, Nicholson's character, he's advocating for them to change the schedule to watch the World Series. Nurse Ratched says, okay, if you can get the votes, a majority rules. He says, yeah, that's fine. He doesn't get the votes, but, he ends up basically pretending and calling the World Series game, and all the guys, so there's this whole scene about the World Series. But which, by the way, that was all ad-libbed. Nicholson ad-libbed that whole baseball thing.
It was interesting too, because the scene before that, or after the argument about getting to watch the World Series, you see one of the orderlies coming down the hall, and you can hear another one listening to the World Series game. It was the actual game.
Yes.
Did you hear
when they're in the office? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
so
wild.
He walks by, but go ahead. And then it cuts to night. It's that night.
Cuts to night, and and McMurphy's still dead set on, I'm going to watch the series. And so he's hatching this plan. They have this area in the hospital called the tub room, where this huge sink contraption is. It's like marble, this big marble structure, huge. And earlier in the scene, he has this thing where he hoses them all down, and it's really funny.
That's a cover in a lot of the DVDs.
But he says to the guys, they're all standing around, he basically says, I'm gonna pick this thing up, I'm gonna bust out the window, and I'm gonna get out of the local bar and watch the series. I'm gonna watch the game.
Me and Cheswick are gonna wet our whistle. That line.
Exactly. That's right. That's a good line. And so they all start taking bets, and then I think Harding puts like $25 on it that he can't do it. So so then Nicholson, as McMurphy, makes 2 or 3 failed attempts to lift this sink structure out of the ground.
Those were real attempts,
and you can tell, because
he scratched his arms.
The exertion that he puts out is phenomenal. So he's not able to do it.
Yes.
Not able to do it, obviously. And then as he's leaving, defeated, that another just such a great line where he turns and he looks at them and he says, I tried. at least I did that.
At least
And then he
I
walks
tried,
out and he
God damn
kicks
it.
like a barrel or something,
Yeah.
and he's pissed off. But man, what another just phenomenal line.
Great.
So, okay, now cut us
line.
back to Chief.
Yeah. So now we go back, and again, role reversal here.
Mm-hmm.
So the chief says, "Let's go," and I just explained that
He
part.
smothered him. Yeah.
He goes into I always called it the washroom.
Yeah.
And he goes and he picks the damn thing up, puts it on his shoulder, and runs with the son of a bitch and throws it
right out the window.
Right out the window, breaks it, and he jumps. And hence the name, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Not just the window, too. There was like a caged.
The bars, it broke everything.
Yeah.
And then you get a shot of Chief just running away.
Yeah.
And
in the build up, it's that scene just as he starts to smother McMurphy, the music again starts to come in, those Native American drum beats.
Correct.
And just builds and builds until he breaks out. And then it's a much more kind of peaceful, and I think Kesey talks about, I don't know if it was him, but the reference of something about, man comes from nature, and then something about then he's in the institution, but then he returns to nature. There was something with that theme as well,
It's a tough read. The novel's a tough read.
Mm-hmm.
The movie is so much more. I mean, and he has, think about it, Milos Forman has kind of a history of that with Amadeus. That was his movie and won another Academy Award. And, he takes these kind of, how do you make that funny? It makes it funny. And, Man on the Moon was another one he did with Jim Carrey. And again, now that one you would expect to have humor, but it was darker,
Speaking of dark, another thing I found interesting about kind of the behind the scenes stories of this film was the story of the Haskell Wexler that you must have come across in the, I don't know if you watched the commentary or any of the extras. I didn't, but Haskell Wexler was the original cinematographer on the film.
That's right. And he was replaced.
And he was replaced late. He says
credit.
Yes. Like 89%, I think, of the film, he says that he had shot.
Yes.
And then he was fired.
Yes.
And there's a whole story about that. It depends on who you listen to, but
correct.
His story, which, seems very plausible, there was
he was shooting another film.
And there was some people that were involved in the making of that film, right? That there was some ICE or immigration related kind of thing going on, and they were being investigated by, was it the FBI or something? I don't know.
Yes.
And he at least speculates that the pressure and the heat of that, and here's Milos Forman,
right,
from Czechoslovakia, and
that was communist.
Doesn't want anything to do with that, and so it's time for you to go. And I couldn't tell you the name of the guy that gets this double credit, but.
And Milos simply says, no, it was just a disagreement we had.
Right.
What do they call it? Like artistic differences.
Creative, yeah. And Wexler says it took him a long time to get over that. He was devastated by that, as you would be if you'd invested that much time in that. There was another, I guess Kesey too fought with the studios because he didn't, at first they weren't going to give him hardly anything in terms of compensation.
Well, that's what he agreed to, but then when he saw what they did with the story.
And he's never seen the film or had never seen it.
He came across it, I guess, one time.
Did he?
The channels, he comes across it. He starts watching it, not knowing it was his novel.
That's
And then
kind of
once he
interesting.
figured out it was, he flipped it. But
Nurse Louise Fletcher's Nurse Ratched has to be one of the most despicable, terrifying characters in all of cinema history. I just so rotten.
and
You know.
I mean, Shirley MacLaine. There's a long list of people.
And she has a, you know, I don't know honestly that I think must be her biggest performance.
She was in The Exorcist Part 2, I think.
Right. You know what I remember her from was obviously this, but Flowers in the Attic, which I think was 1987. She was scary as hell in that film too.
Yes.
Kept those poor kids up in that attic. Oh my God, she was a nightmare. But
no,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to go back to the reaction shots.
Yeah.
Because I'm obsessed with all the reactions in this movie and how good they were. And you hinted on it about the boat scene. There's a famous boat scene where they basically hijack a boat under the, McMurphy. First he hijacks the bus.
Yeah, they're going to take this charter boat and go fishing.
And then he gets on a charter boat to I guess they all got sick except Nicholson, for real, during that scene. I guess it took a long time to film. But I love the reactions when he starts to introduce these, patients, these inmates. And all of a sudden they kind of take a little pride.
That's an example of what you talked about
just kind of like
a few minutes ago of the comedy that was in this. Not a lot of it, but that was a pretty funny. He just starts naming them all. This is Dr. So-and-so and Dr. Cheswick and Dr. Tabor. And they all
play along.
That's right. Which, again, I think is something central to his role, his character, which is he comes in and it's what his character does for all these other guys.
Yeah. Of course, minutes later, Cheswick is hysterical at the wheel of the boat.
Yeah.
And leaves
and then
the
at
boat.
the same time, Tabor's catching a swordfish or something off the
all
the
chaos
bow.
breaks out. But
yeah.
Great scene. And
did you catch Angelica Houston in that scene?
I didn't. I read that
she's on the dock as they're coming in.
I didn't even notice.
It's so quick. It's so quick. Which of course they ended up, they were together for a time.
They were at the time.
She's in the audience with him when he wins the Oscar.
Yeah, in fact, when you read Jack's profile and they talk about his kids, he's got like 6 or 7 kids, all different women. And he was with Angelica Houston for 17 years. And what broke up the relationship was he got somebody pregnant while he was with her. And that finally ended the relationship. But going back to the movie, there's James Caan, that was another name that was, apparently he was offered the role of McMurphy and turned it down.
I guess Jack had this thing, and I think you heard it in that clip that I sent you, this thing with Scatman Crothers, who was funny as hell in this movie.
4 movies they did together.
And there was a deal to make 5, I guess, between the two of them, and he never made it to the 5th. No. But God, it's just such a funny scene where he's kind of holding down the fort at night when they have this wild Christmas party.
Yes.
And
that took 4 nights to shoot that sequence.
Mm-hmm.
The ending sequence with Chief and him, 1 take.
That's impressive.
So you wonder,
that felt kind of.
That was like a cut loose moment.
It felt kind of ad-lib too, Scatman, when he's getting them all out of there and he's slapping, get out of here, skinny memeffer, It's my job. And then he swigs the J&B.
Yeah, he swigs it. He, winds up passing out.
He knows he's screwed at that point.
And then the nurse comes down, he's the supervisor. And I love this sequence. The supervisor, you see her walking down and everybody just hides in the office. And
including Scatman.
Including Scatman. What was his name?
Scatman's character?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Was it Lucas or Mr. Lucas? Something like
That
that.
something like that. Yeah.
She's calling into him, and
Right.
somebody's like, "Why isn't
What are
he
you doing in
answering?
here
Why
with
isn't he
us?
answering?" Yeah, no, you hear, "Why isn't he answering him?
Right.
I don't know, where the hell is he?
Right.
I'm right here with you, God damn it, I'm hiding too."
And Nicholson's like, get out there and say something
Get
to
out
her.
there and say something.
Yeah.
Yes, and then he kind of whiz.
No, everything's all right in here,
Yeah,
ma'am.
hey
Everything's
ma'am, how
good.
you doing? And
And
all
then
of a
you hear a
sudden,
bunch of
hear
crashing
a
and
glass
stuff falling.
and then all of a sudden,
Candy
Candy sticks
pops
her
out.
face out, and he's like, you can understand a man has needs at night. It gets lonely. Give Scatman an award for that scene. That
That
was
was so, oh my
hysterical.
God, was that good? That was
Now
really good.
let's talk about some of the connections.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to mention too, I didn't realize this, and it just popped up in some of the stuff I was looking at, was the Netflix series. Did you see this?
Which one?
So there's a Netflix series that's supposed to come out next month. Of course, it's almost September now, called Ratchet.
About Nurse
It's all about
Ratched?
Nurse Ratchet. Yeah, it's a prequel to it. It's gonna be, what I heard was, it's supposed to be about like 4 seasons or something.
Really?
And when they conclude, it's going to basically take you up to that point.
Huh.
And it's interesting because I did, it's you think about the character, and when we meet her, we're introduced to her, she's well established into this role that
Right.
she has at the
Oh,
hospital.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
How about
And
that shot of her? There's a fantastic
up in
shot
the window,
in the window. What a great shot where
that's
she's
a
looking
classic.
down at Nicholson and he's doing all that goof. That was also very funny
That was so
when he's
funny.
doing we know
Put the
Nicholson's a big
ball in the
basketball
basket,
fan.
Chief.
Yeah, Chief, jump up and shove that sucker in the net.
Yeah.
Jump up and just slam it down there,
But
Chief.
her face when they're looking up at her, she just, she can see, okay, this is something I'm gonna have to
That's
take care
right.
of this. Because she
Again,
needed control. She needed
another.
control.
That's right.
But why? But that's what's so interesting, is what made her like that, which I hope maybe we'll learn in this Netflix series, is what made, because she is, you have to look up the trailer for it. It's pretty, Sarah Paulson is starring in it.
I know that name. Is she the comedian? No.
No. She was in, oh gosh, of course, now
Terminator, the new Terminator.
No, another series that you'd know. But anyways, and there's some other familiar faces in it too. But the directing, it looks like an incredibly shot
good
series. Yeah, really, really interesting.
Check it out.
But
so some of the connections.
Between
all these characters. I'm talking in real life now. Well, sort of in real life, but in the movie life, you got the Batman connection. I brought that up at the very beginning.
And there's a couple of early signs of the Joker laugh in this. If you
really?
If you pick up on a couple of laughs in it, McMurphy laughs. I'm like, oh, I could see the foreshadowing what was to come.
Yeah, but you've got the Joker, which is Nicholson from Batman 1.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Danny DeVito, the Penguin, Batman Forever. The third Batman that never happened was called Batman Continues by Tim Burton. Brad Dourif was going to be Scarecrow.
I could see
there's
that.
one.
I could see that.
Then you've got Christopher Lloyd, the connection with Danny DeVito, Taxi.
Right.
I
know Kevin Bacon's in here somewhere.
Well, the Scat Man. The funny thing is the connection between Scatman Crothers and Jack Nicholson, both in this movie that the author condemned, and the famous Shining, which, if you ever hear Stephen King talk about it, oh man, in fact, they made another movie, right? Did they remake it called The Shining, or it was called something else? I think they just remade The Shining, and it was remade the way he originally wanted it done.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody liked it. His one, everyone liked Kubrick's. So that was another one. And then I told you James Caan was offered R.P. McMurphy. Think about Jack Nicholson under the watch of a sadistic nurse. Nicholson turns down Misery, the movie Misery.
With Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates is a
James Caan.
Right. So you got that connection.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about The Exorcist. Louise Fletcher was in The Exorcist 2. Brad Dourif, Exorcist 3. You got any others you can think of?
There's got to be a Western connection. So if I say I'd like to thread Will Sampson somehow in this. So he's in The Outlaw Josie Wales.
Yeah.
Which of
I
course
don't know how you could
stars
thread him.
Clint
Eastwood.
Which stars Clint Eastwood. It's got to be something with him and Jack Nicholson or something. Wait a minute. Gene Hackman. We're getting there.
Gene
Hackman. Take me there. Come on.
Okay. Where's the connect?
You referenced Hackman earlier.
I referenced Hackman because he...
We need to tie this up.
Yeah. Hackman.
This is for nobody but you and me right now. Don't worry. There's nobody listening.
No, nobody's going to listen to this thing. Hackman retires.
Yeah.
Nicholson retires. There's the connection between those
That's
two.
Not the connection.
We bring in Clint and the whole thing's
That's not the connection.
Episode.
There's got to be another connection somehow.
Well, Hackman you connected them on The Unforgiven.
Yeah, wait.
I believe Clint and Jack Nicholson didn't work together.
I know.
Or Gene Hackman.
Morgan Freeman. Someone's got to be connected somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Anyways, Will Sampson, all 6'5" of him, man, he was what an amazing performance.
The opening shot when Jack Nicholson first meets him, he's standing on a box to make him look even bigger.
I mean, he's 6'5".
Yeah, he's 6'7".
He didn't need any help.
And Nicholson's 5'10".
Yeah, he didn't need any help.
But
in that
I think it was something to do with the angle. There was also when McMurphy first comes in and he kisses the cop.
Yeah.
He had kissed a different cop the first take, and Foreman says, "Hey, kiss the other guy,"
which he didn't know was coming. Yeah.
He didn't know it was coming.
Right.
And I guess he punched Nicholson a couple times, which you can see, like there's various cuts of the movie, and you can see him taking a swing at Nicholson and other cuts of the movie.
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
So. I like there's a line where Nicholson is talking. This is after the fishing trip, I think, and they're talking to him. I think I don't remember which one it was, but where Doc Spivey is asking him about whatever the incident was that happened. He's like, sorry. He's like, that nurse, man, she ain't honest.
Yeah.
Just the way
she's not playing square, Doc.
That's right. She likes a rigged game.
She likes a rigged game.
And he holds up the deck of cards and there's so many lines.
When all the doctors are talking.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
He's dangerous.
No, yeah. He's not crazy, but I think he's dangerous.
Yeah, Mildred, what do you think? Well, boys, I think.
I'm so glad you mentioned that.
The name?
Scene. No, just that scene. I know the name you can mention too, but because as soon as he defers to her,
yes,
the camera just starts to slowly zoom in on her, and you get that tight shot, and just again, she needed control. This was all about her. Plus, she wasn't going to admit that she couldn't wrangle some.
I think we can help him. I think we can help him.
If we let him go, it's just going to be we're giving our problems on to somebody else.
Right.
I
think we can help him.
Such a despicable character. But yeah, there was you mentioned her name Mildred, where that scene when he comes back from the first
fake lobotomy. Yeah.
Yeah. and he's all hyped up, and and then he's being very polite and respectful.
Thanks, Mildred.
Right? He says, "Oh yeah, thanks, Mildred," which she didn't know he was gonna for real do that.
Yeah.
And she said that Louise Fletcher said that was very disarming. She said, if you look, you can see her turn red because by doing that, she said it disarmed her in a way that made her feel very vulnerable because he became it got very intimate
right
in the scene. And I thought that was pretty wild. So as I was watching, I was waiting for that scene to come up.
Yeah, that was a great scene. And also there was one story where she what do you say? I'm married?
What about peculiar? What does that mean?
I didn't like that. That's the only thing in the film that bothers me. When
peculiar?
I watched it, I
thought that was funny.
Harding says peculiar and they all instantly, almost too quick. Peculiar. They all go wacko over. What does that mean? Peculiar.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that bothers me is it just felt phony. Like they all kind of reacted too quick. Like I think if there was a peculiar, and then another guy, what do you mean peculiar?
Yeah, I thought it was I thought the oddity of it was what made it work because it was kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
But in that context, it kind of fit because the whole thing is a little bizarre.
I don't know. I for whatever reason, that's the only shot that I'm like, I think that's kind of dumb the way they reacted.
The scene between Will Sampson and Nicholson when Nicholson's about to get his first shock dose. And that's when he discovers that Chief is not just some deaf, dumb.
You can hear me too?
It's the juicy fruit line that I love, right?
Yeah.
You fooled him, Chief. You fooled him all. You fooled him all, Chief.
He's got like a fat lip from the fight. You fooled him, Chief.
But the way he gives him a piece of gum and Chief says, thank you. And he looks at him.
And then he gives him another piece.
Right, he slides the piece up. Exactly. and then he just goes, juicy fruit.
How about let's give Christopher Lloyd a shout out for his sequence when the cigarette winds up in his cuff.
I know.
And he's reacting like, holy, it's burning.
Yeah, he's right.
He's going to get shock treatment because of the damn burn in the cuff. Because he's getting burned by a cigarette.
Now, I think I saw an interview with him where he said that, I want to say it was maybe because of Cheswick, that actor, when they had to shut down production for a few weeks or a month or something. I think it was about a month. And Christopher Lloyd said when they came back, he lost his mojo.
Really?
He couldn't find, he could. And
Christopher Lloyd?
Christopher Lloyd. Yeah. And so Nicholson came up to him on set and said something to him. And he said, I was immediately back in that space where I needed to be. And he was forever grateful to him for that. I thought that was an interesting little tidbit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So let's button this up.
Let's button it up. We threw a poll out on Twitter asking, this was related to that blog you put up about the current state of the movies. And we had put a poll out asking people, are you going back to the movies? What? And not surprised to find, but 82% said no. They're done with going to the theater, which is pretty and amazing.
I'm gonna put another blog up this week, maybe two.
Yeah.
But one about Disney.
Okay.
What they're doing with Mulan, just to give you a little
nice
preview. So
little
that'll
teaser.
Be up probably by Monday night.
Well, speaking of films that are out in the movies, Christopher Nolan's film Tenet.
Correct.
Which I'll be honest, I haven't been following the hype about it. I don't even know what it's about, to be frank. I will see it. Not in a theater though, but I'll see it.
It looks like another, like him and his brother Jonathan. Jonathan does the series on HBO, which I love, Westworld.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan did Memento. He was the writer of Memento, which was a short story that him and his brother made into a full movie.
And seeing that we're almost into September,
and we will be reviewing or talking about
Tenet.
Tenet.
Absolutely.
Comes out.
But we're going to give away a brand new copy of Memento for our monthly movie giveaway. So if you want to get your hands on that, all you got to do is send us an email at ohbpodcast@gmail.com. That's OHB as in brother podcast@gmail.com. Follow us on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook. We've got an Instagram account. We've got a YouTube channel where you can, if you prefer to watch your podcast, you can watch us on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified every time that we put up new episodes.
Give us a thumbs up.
Give us a thumbs up. Yep. Follow us on social media. And that's going to wrap it up for this week. We're going to now fly out of our nest and figure out a way to edit the end of this so that it doesn't go right in the toilet.
Yeah. I think
there's a space in there. There's a space in there where I can chop it up.
Yeah,
and we went way longer than we.
Yeah.
I've been looking at it the whole time going, I probably could have.
Well, we went 10 minutes longer than I wanted to go. I wanted to button it about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, we're almost an hour 20 now.
Yeah, and I think
we needed to stop.
If we had stopped then, it would have been.
Yeah, we should have stopped in an hour at the latest.
Nobody's listening right now.
No, this is dead air right now.
And for people who get to this point, there's a beyond this point, that
if you get to this point, that's right.
Keep listening.
Keep listening.
For each one of our podcasts, there's an Easter egg, kind of like a Marvel kind of deal.
Oh, speaking of Marvel, we didn't even mention.
Man,
good Lord, right. Man.
That was terrible news last night.
So terrible. So I sent you a text last night. And it literally, I just sent you this link, and I think I said Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
and it was
we were texting about this.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere,
and we were done. It was like, okay, I'll catch up with you later. And then I came across this. I was scrolling Twitter, and I saw the headline: Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther, but dead at 43. What? I couldn't wrap my head around it.
I was stunned. That really hit me in the jaw.
43 years old.
43 years old.
And he was battling apparently colon cancer
for 4 years.
For 4 years, and somebody had sent out a tweet that basically said so he basically think of everything that he gave us creatively.
Yeah.
While he was going through this horrible
chemo,
cancer,
the whole thing. I know.
Cancer just sucks so bad, man.
Just really sad. That was a shock, and it's a terrible loss because I can't even imagine the career this guy was going to have. I mean, he already has, at 43, he's got a
ton of films. Ton of films, and it was so odd that he passed away on Jackie Robinson Day because he portrayed him, of course, in that film 42.
Yeah,
just a real sad.
It's terrible.
A sad headline. So. Yep. Count your blessings, folks.
Especially at these times, wear masks. Do what
be responsible.
And the doctors say, please.
Yeah,
and parties.
If you don't want to do it for someone else, do it for yourself. If you don't want to do it for someone else.
Yeah.
Because
believe me, this thing is real, and it. A lot of 180,000 families out there know how real it is. So
yeah, I'm we're those of us that haven't been impacted by that as directly or anything like that. We're very fortunate. So I consider myself.
Think of yourself as lucky if you have the opportunity to work from home.
Yeah,
if you have the opportunity to go to the store. Because it's open, because of these people sacrificing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Wear a mask.
Yeah, it's really not that hard, folks. So, well, on that note, let's wrap it up for this week. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.